Alright, so I just did a little bit of welding. I'm trying to build a like a TV table where you can put your TV here, and there's like, you know, other storage. So for today, I like to show you basics of welding, the tools that you would need, you know, the outfit or the protection that you would need, and just basically how welding really works. What we have here is a portable welding machine. So welding is a very generalized term for joining different materials. For this particular case, this is designed to join metals, specifically steel. Okay, so the specific technique or name for this particular welding method is called shielded metal arc welding, or SMAW. So in many welding applications, the concept of arc welding is very common. The arcing term is similar to when you try to connect the negative and positive of a tiny battery ever so slightly. If you try to connect them, you know, close enough, you would see like a very tiny spark. And if you get enough amount of electric current, then that arc will create so much heat that it can actually melt metals. To be able to do that, you must have a welding machine. And what I got here is a portable welding machine. So it is portable because if you notice, it is quite small. It's not very heavy, and it consumes less current or energy from your outlet. That's why for these portable welding machines, you can simply plug it in your outlet and then you're good to go. The bigger ones, you cannot plug it to a regular outlet because the high current will basically burn the internal wiring of that socket or that outlet. So you have to have a specialized wiring system to be able to use that large AC welding machines. That's why I prefer to use the portable ones. Nowadays, it's very cheap. You know, the power electronics has become more affordable nowadays, and therefore the manufacturers can now produce this at a very low cost. I got this particular one for, I think, less than 2,000 pesos. So it's very cheap. So most welding machines are rated for, you know, the amperage that they can do. Alright, so how does a shielded metal arc welding works? So usually you have a machine like this, and if you notice, there's two wires sticking out of it. One is the red one and one is the black one. So the black one is this one. So this is what you call your ground wire, or simply ground. And then you have your electrode wire, or the positive one. Example, we want to join these two metals together. You connect your ground to any part of your metal, and then you attach a piece of welding rod to your electrode holder or welding rod holder. So this one is like a clamp. Okay, it's spring loaded, so you just attach it there, and by touching the tip in any part of the metal, you can start doing your weld just like that. It's that simple. There is no switch button. There is no switch button here. There's nothing to press. By simply touching it, and it will start, you know, the welding process. Let's talk about welding rods. So this is a welding rod, right? So this is basically a piece of metal rod, and then it is coated with this flux. So the flux is made out of several materials that when it is burned, because of the arc action, it creates this smoke, this shield, wherein it protects our welding. And that's where the shielded word comes from, when you say shielded metal arc welding. This is another welding rod which has a much smaller diameter. So the reason why they have varying diameters is so that you can weld different thicknesses of metal. So for instance, if I'm going to weld this piece of metal, I would want to use a thin welding rod, something like that. Typically, you would want to use a welding rod that is smaller than the thickness of your material. What will happen if you use a thick welding rod with a thin material? Well, for one, is that using the correct current for your 2mm welding rod might burn through your material instantly. So aside from the thicknesses of the welding rods also have different numbering. As a demonstration, we have two pieces of metal here, and we will try to weld them together. I will just position them like this. I'll use the ground to clamp them in place so that they're not going to move. And I'm gonna start welding from this point up to that point. Okay, so this is how the weld looks like. So the first thing that you would see is this, this black thing here, that black shell. That's the flux. So you have to chip that off. Then it will now there. Then this is how the weld bead will look like. Then you just clean it up with a steel brush, and that's how it is. So for this one, the welding is not so perfect. If you notice, there's some kind of imperfection in terms of the consistency. And I also noticed that the weld bit is quite high. So I think the setting for my current wasn't spot on. So I can still change the current setting to improve this. So let's do another run on the other side of the plate. So the first one, the amp setting was around 100 amps. This one, I increased it to 150. And let's see if this has a better weld beads. So this one is a bit better. The size or the width is more the width is more consistent now. It's more straight and it's more even, and it's a little flatter. What welders do really see behind those welding masks? So I have a extra welding lens here. So what I will do is I will attach this to my camera, and then try to get footages of actual welding. Okay, so this is the portion that I just did. That's how a typical shielded metal arc welding bead should look like. Something like this.